A huge amount of water exists in the ground beneath your feet, called groundwater. Groundwater supplies about 47% of the water used in Texas. Groundwater is the water located beneath the Earth's surface in the cracks and spaces in soil, sand, and rock. It is stored in and moves through geologic formations of soil, sand, and rocks called aquifers. Aquifers are like giant sponges just below the surface or deep underground. Surface water, rain, and melting snow seep into the ground, filling cracks and spaces in the rocks. Groundwater can be found in 30 aquifers throughout Texas. The Gulf Coast aquifer system is the major aquifer used for municipal, industrial, and agricultural supply in the Houston region. The Gulf Coast aquifer system consists of several aquifers, including the Chico, Evangeline, and Jasper aquifers. Water in aquifers is brought to the surface naturally through a spring, or it can be pumped out of the ground using a well. A well is a hole drilled into the ground to access water contained in an aquifer. A pipe and a pump are used to pull water out of the ground. There are 3 basic types of wells. Bored or shallow wells are drilled into an unconfined water source and are generally shallow at 100 feet or less. Consolidated or rock wells are drilled into natural rock that contains no soil and does not collapse. These wells are at an average depth of 250 feet. The third type of well is an unconsolidated or sand well. These wells are drilled into soil, sand, gravel, or clay material that collapses upon itself. This is the kind we have in our area. When water from aquifers like the Gulf Coast aquifer is used faster than nature can replenish it, water levels in the aquifer decline, and the aquifer begins to depressurize, like a car tire. This depressurization can cause the clay material in the aquifer to compact, which we can observe at land surface as subsidence. Subsidence is the lowering of the land surface, and in the Houston area, it is caused by the compaction of the aquifer due to groundwater withdrawal.
For many, many years, Houstonians relied almost solely on their water supply from groundwater sources. And of course, as some of you may know, Houston has had some sinking, subsidence, and so there was some people many years ago that recognized that we needed to diversify our water supply.
In the Houston region, because of all the rivers, creeks, and bayous, and the proximity to the Gulf of Mexico, subsidence can cause serious problems. In the Houston area, subsidence has shifted the location of the coastline and contributes to flooding. Texas City is located on Galveston Bay and has always been susceptible to flooding caused by hurricane storm surge. The city has become more vulnerable as a result of subsidence, with 3 to 6 feet of subsidence having occurred between 1906 and 2006. To address flooding concerns, the city has installed Archimedes screw pumps, some of the largest of their kind, to move stormwater from the city out into Moses Lake. Archimedes screw pumps can also be used to pump water out of Moses Lake into Galveston Bay. Subsidence can also have impacts on infrastructure, such as roadways. An example of this is the old Red Bluff Road Bridge.
This bridge was built in roughly 1950, and what you see right now are the remnants of the old bridge. There's been roughly 6 to 9 feet of subsidence here, and that's why the new bridge had to be built, and that was built in roughly the 1980s.
Goose Creek oil field was the first documented place where we learned that using shallow fluids and extracting those from the underground caused subsidence. This whole area behind me used to be dry. And back in the 20s, it began to subside, and the oil derricks out there pumping oil weren't actually in water when they were put in.
Subsidence has also caused a neighborhood called Brownwood to vanish. Brownwood, located east of Houston in the city of Baytown, Texas, had over 400 homes. The area experienced as much as 10 feet of subsidence, which resulted in some homes being inundated and others experiencing frequent flooding.
We are in the famous Brownwood subdivision, which was originally built for Exxon executives. It was a high-end waterfront subdivision that finally succumbed to inundation and flooding. The subdivision ended around 1983 when Hurricane Alicia rolled through. It had already lost many of its homes, and there were pumps built along the inside to bring water to the outside. The area has had about 9 feet of subsidence, and you can see in the background a concrete outline of a swimming pool which was in the backyard of a home.
The neighborhood ultimately was abandoned, and the site is now the Baytown Nature Center, which provides habitat for native plants and animals.
So here at Brownwood, we're really at the epicenter of the subsidence impacts that we've had in this area. Behind me is open water, and there used to be a peninsula full of homes that was located on that peninsula. The subsidence impacts are even more wide-ranging than what we see here. They go all the way to the Jacinto Monument, where there was more than a staggering 10 feet of subsidence that occurred there. And that's where we're heading next.
The San Jacinto Battleground State Historical Park, site of the battle that won Texas independence, is now partially submerged by water. About 100 acres of the park are now underwater due to subsidence.
We're here at the San Jacinto Monument. This is where Texas won its independence from Mexico, and it's also the epicenter of one of the greatest subsidence impacts that we have in our region, with a staggering 10 feet of subsidence that we've seen here. This subsidence, however, occurred decades ago. Harris-Galveston Subsidence District was created in 1975 and has monitored subsidence and regulated groundwater withdrawals, and has reduced the subsidence rate in this area to nearly zero.
Once established, the Subsidence District started regulating the use of groundwater and shifting water users from groundwater to other sources of water, primarily treated surface water. Since 1975, groundwater use has reduced dramatically in the areas along the coast and Houston Ship Channel, and consequently subsidence rates are nearly zero.